Everyone ready? The council work session of Monday, December 7th, 2020 is called to order at 7:30. Council members Stavoli, Everett, Danzig, Walsh, nope, not Walsh, sorry about that, Haas, Rounds are in attendance. Also, Mayor Byrne, Law Director Picorni, and Director Iaconis. First item on the agenda is the 2021 temporary budget. Director Iaconis, take it away.
So your first document in front of you, is that too loud? Will be an update from last week. This will have the 2020 budget numbers, the actual expenditures through November, and what we are asking for the first quarter. So this is a little bit different than how we did it last year. So this is using our new accounting system and all of our new accounting codes. Basically, I will say off the bat, there is a 2% cost of living increase for all employees. That is also in anticipation of union contracts. And that applies to everyone except the fire department, since they've already received theirs in September. So a couple things to point out, just looking at budget versus where we are right now. Overtime is always something that is something we watch closely. So we are just about at budget for the police department with 1 month to go. Considering where we've been in the past few years, I think that this is a dramatic improvement. On the second page, you'll see for the fire department, they're at $259. We budgeted $330, so we may very well come in right around budget overtime-wise for them. Just going through, it's going to be a little bit different as you get used to it with each department, how we're budgeting. We're just going to do basic wages, utilities, nothing out of the ordinary, no capital. One thing that is often asked that I'll point out why we don't budget for sick leave. Wages are completely budgeted in the first line item for each department. So for police and the full-time personal services, that includes 20/80 hours. So then as the sick time actually occurs throughout the year, we post it in the correct place in our accounting system so that you can have a handle on where they are. So this is all police. It's broken out pretty dramatically. Second page, we have fire department. And then we have the safety department. So here is where we have our safety director, and also we're, the dispatch contract is coming out of there, which is on the third page. Recreation is Mr. Tallarico, his assistant. We don't have a lot in there, as we don't know what programs are really going to be happening in the first quarter. And then we get on to the building department. This includes everyone here at City Hall, building department-wise, inspectors, the clerks, Dennis. Also, very basic, economic development. We have Director Sebas. We really don't have anything budgeted for them because also not much going on in the first quarter besides wages. We have under utilities, and I would like to point out we are quite a bit under budget on utilities than we were last year. There were a few contracts that I had renegotiated that we're finally starting to, I think I probably mentioned it last year, now we're starting to actually see the savings from that contract negotiation. Trash, it's about the same. Then we have the mayor's office. This is just the mayor's salary and errands. And then on to council. The only thing that may be a little bit different than you're used to is I do have now budgeted data for the iPads for when we go remote. So that really is the only increase or different expenditure for council. Mayor's Court, here we have our magistrate, clerk of court. Really the only expenditures besides personal services are her software maintenance, and then any payments she makes to the muni courts. Any questions or keep going? Keep going. All right, on to finance. So here you'll have myself, the assistant finance director. We have one full-time employee who does accounts payable. We really don't have a lot of costs built into this. We do have our payroll services. Just looking at that, also I'd like to point out that's at $1,725, $340, $8,100. The payroll expenses have dramatically decreased since we've made the switch to a HOLA. And then custodial, this is just the one employee we have part-time who cleans here at City Hall. Planning and zoning, normally there are no expenditures related to them because they are on a volunteer basis. However, they will also have iPads, so this is the data charge for them. We have some budgeting, and then another thing I would like to point out, the number from 2019 isn't here, but under 745, 343, this is the new accounting system. It costs approximately $4,000 a year versus close to $20,000 we were paying for the previous software we were utilizing. And we also receive a computer and a printer every year from them for free. So, legal, we have our law director, and also we have Florence 100% in that category. And just a little bit, if you're on page 6, that would be any extra outside legal that he needs, but we'll get more into that into the first quarter once we know a lot more about what's going on next year. The ones that are blank, you'll see for the CCA, I changed it to Rita. So we've technically paid $205,000 to CCA this year for collection. I'm going to budget roughly about the same amount for Rita, but I do believe it is going to be a decrease. But just to be on the safe side. Other things, general administration. So this is where we've now put a lot of, we have all of our cell phones, the internet plans, rather than broken out and distributed amongst each department percentage-wise, which was kind of difficult to gauge anyway. Everything falls into this 790 in the general fund. So this could include any sort of contracts we have, whether it's with our IT company, falls under that umbrella, cleaning services, window washing, anything that is completely general to the city, we're putting there. And not much that really is of, nothing sticks out for the first quarter. SCMR, so this is our street department, 2011. We're now moving out of the general fund into that fund. This is everyone in the streets except for our mechanics. So we have their salaries, also with the 2% increase. And then some other very basic costs associated with them running their department. You have the state highway 2021. That is used to subsidize 2011, the SCMR. So there may not be any expenditures, but that's about a quarter of what we would normally spend in the year. And then the cemetery fund, which doesn't have much activity. 2041 is parks maintenance. This is where we have all of our lifeguards, concession staff, the part-time recreation employees who do a lot of work for us. So this is where they are all budgeted. on what happens in the first quarter, may be flexible. And then, on to 2042, we have the senior center. This would be Trish and her one employee, and then also all the drivers, cooks, part-time employees. And one thing I would like to point out, she just received and applied for a $25,000 grant. We've already received the funds, so that is going to offset the cost that we were initially picking up when we ran out of money for the meals for seniors. So another $25,000, like, very excellent. CDBG, not budgeting anything there. We don't have anything coming up in the first quarter. And then, of course, Director Sebis will get into that further during getting into the permanent budget. DARE has been there, that hasn't changed. And then PACT is the new fund we started for the police department, so that their funds were completely dedicated, their donations are dedicated to that fund. 2101, the permissive tax, this goes also into subsidizing the SCMR. Then police and fire pension, this is where, so the 0.3 mils of property taxes, 0.3 go into each. And then that money is what's expended towards their pension. For computer, there's a portion of each citation that goes into this account to purchase any computer equipment for the clerk. Our EMS account, really the only thing we're paying here are the fees to Great Lakes Billing to administer the ambulance billing for us. Bond retirement, I have nothing in there right now because we don't have anything coming up in the first quarter. Our note will be up in April. And then nothing in capital except for this one lease payment, which does need to be made in the first quarter, the $28,000. The health insurance fund, so it functions a little bit differently now. So we are using the COBRA rate for everybody to figure how much per person, because we're self-insured, we're not paying a premium to anyone. So it's posted in there, and then each department is charged back what their actual costs are. And then the fleet maintenance, this is the fund for, we have the wages for our mechanics, and then all expenditures related are posted in this account and then charged back to the department that it applies to. So whether it's police, fire, service, senior center. The agency funds, these are just, the agency fund is really just like a holding fund, a pass-through for money that we're just holding on to that's going to another place. So this 212,500 was related to the settlement with ATC Realty earlier this year. So that is a really fast version. It's very similar to the temporary we posted last year, except for the cost of living increase. And that is that. If you want to just very quickly go through the next handout showing revenues, where we're budgeted versus where we are right now. Even getting to the bottom line, we thought maybe we'd be just over 27 million. Right now, we're at about 25 million. So we are down, but I know that we have a few large deposits coming in the next couple weeks. CCA has pretty much caught up. I would say that we're looking, I had a good call with Rita today. The letters will be going out this week to residents, so they'll start getting that information. If you start getting any phone calls, please direct them to me if you would like. But we're on a good track there. And so then this last one, which I think is really the condensed version of revenues and expenditures together. It's going to show you on the very last page that right now we're at a $234,000 surplus. So that goes hand in hand with next week, when I ask you to pass final appropriations for 2020. We will not be requesting any additional appropriations. We may even be decreasing some. And the only thing you'll see is some movement between the funds and distributing that. But we've had a pretty, considering with COVID, we've had a pretty successful year. We've made a lot of changes internally that have controlled some of the costs, such as overtime. So I thank the mayor and the directors for that. And would ask your consideration to pass this temporary.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? I know we just got some of this just before the meeting, so.
Yeah, the revenues and the general, the fund status are new for you to look at.
Yeah. Do you have anything for now?
Not right now, thank you.
And in the process, if you don't mind, Mr. President, the process moving forward, we get the temporary in place, and then as we had done last year, the first quarter, each of the directors will come in, speak specifically about their departments, the two chiefs will come in and speak specifically about theirs. This just gets us off and running for the first quarter of 2021.
Any no questions? Item number 2 on the agenda is the rules and regulations for RITA. Director Iaconis.
Since we are making the switch to RITA, they ask that each community adopt their rules and regulations. It's really a housekeeping item that every community passes. Something similar was passed when the switch to CCA was made. But one thing to note is that anything that is in our ordinances or in our charter would supersede their rules and regulations, so there is flexibility there. So if you have specific questions, though, I can get those answers, or if you're comfortable passing that tonight, I would appreciate it.
Does anyone have any objection to passing it? Is it?
Oh, is it not on?
It's not on tonight. It would be
Next week, I mean.
It would be
Thank
next
you.
week.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, you threw me there.
I'm getting ahead of myself,
I know.
sorry.
Does anyone have any objection to putting on for one reading next week?
Next week is fine.
Sorry. And please, this week, as you look through it and digest this some more, call me, email me. I'm available all the time, happy to walk through anything with you or answer any questions. So.
Anything else for Katie? No? Last item is the amendment to the moratorium. Director Picorni.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to prior discussions that we've had with council and regarding the moratorium on development in the city, and acting upon your request and in consultation with our outside legal counsel, Mr. Coyne, we've drafted an amended moratorium ordinance that amends the current document in Section 1 to allow or exempt from the moratorium development with retail sales, beauty salons, or barber shops. We're acting on that because Mr. Patton has received numerous requests from businesses in those in those types of businesses, and we are recommending adoption in one reading tonight because we are moving ever so close with the proposed amended zoning ordinances that you're aware of. We had to conclusion, moving ever so close to conclusion of that process. Before your meeting tonight, the Planning Commission met and had a public hearing regarding the zoning ordinances, the proposals There will be another public hearing next Monday, the 14th, at 5:30, to complete the process. Where planning is going to have now a week to digest what they learned tonight. If there's any public input, we hope to hear it this week. We hope to, we publicly noticed both meetings. The mayor sent out letters to all the business owners and the building owners. There was a press release, and there was also a notice on our website with all the documents that were presented to planning tonight. And I believe that you may have those documents, or they were in your mailbox, I'm not sure, but they're for you also. So it's anticipated that next week, if planning is so inclined, they will refer the proposed zoning ordinances back to council so you can begin your formal process of review and approval, as we go forward. We're trying to move through the process as quickly as we can. Well, we want to be very thorough, we want to be very deliberate, but we're trying to also meet the deadline of the moratorium, which I believe ends February 2nd. So we're kind of right on that schedule to get this process concluded. Council's required to have a public hearing on these proposed ordinance amendments. But we'll get through that process. So we first got to get it through planning and back to you. So, long explanation, but we're trying to open up these limited areas now because there's been some interest through the building department. And if you would be so inclined tonight to move on this, we'd ask for one reading, and then we can, Mr. Patton can act on his request.
Does anyone have any objection to one reading tonight? Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pequani. If there's nothing further, the work session is adjourned at 7:54.